I kind of enjoy the Blair Witch project. It was one of the first horror movies I've ever watched, back then on DVD. I can still remember it really good. It was one of these DVDs in a cardboard box, and I thought it was something that might have been real, especially as one of my older brothers told me it was. Relatively soon I found out this was not the case, and it kind of lost its magic for me. And then my brother also lent the movie to one of his stupid friends and I never saw it again. I eventually watched the second movie on TV and observed the train wreck that it was. I don't remember much of it, only that it was like a real movie, not found footage, and more violent and with nudity. But the story didn't really make sense. Eventually I revisited the original when I bought the Blu-ray of the Blair Witch Project and the Blair Witch as a double feature. I was looking forward to the sequel, which was made by the same guys who made Your Next and The Guest, and I really loved The Guest. Unfortunately, it was another disappointment, but the first one surprisingly still holds up. After I played Call of Cthulhu and Agony lately, I wanted something a little bit better. So I installed Blair Witch and I was full of hope. Developed by Blubber Team, the guys behind Layers of Fear, Blair Witch is a walking simulator horror game, which follows a new character in Alice, a guy with a couple of issues. He has a rocky relationship, is no longer a police officer after an incident and was a soldier which brought him PTSD. He has a dog called Bullet which helps him keeping his mind in check. In the game, Alice can even get panic attacks when his emotional support pet isn't nearby. This rarely happens though. Bullet is usually close to Alice at all times. Alice and Bullet enter the mysterious forest in Burkittsville as a young boy has gone missing in the woods. Alice misses the search team and tries to find some clues on his own. With the help of Bullet, he soon finds the baseball cap of the boy and has a lead. Despite the sheriff telling him to wait for the search party, Alice continues to look for the boy as a mysterious incident starts happening. As he eventually tries to meet up with the search party, he doesn't find them despite being at the meeting place. It seems that time and space are changing in the forest. As this is a walking simulator, there isn't much going on in the gameplay department. The player can collect statues. I'm not sure what exactly the player can accomplish with this. It's probably only an achievement, but maybe this can also lead to one of the various endings. Also, at least at one spot in the game it was necessary to collect the statue to progress though. There are also wooden dolls which are already known from the movies. There are other things which can be collected as well, but these seem to be necessary for story progression. Objects which have been picked up can be observed from every angle. This is similar to the first PS4 games which arrived, where you could pick up random stuff and just look at it. The two main gameplay parts are the camcorder, with which the player can watch tapes and stop them in certain spots to change the surroundings. This is neat but isn't really used for complicated puzzle. It's all kept very simple. The other part is Bullet. You can interact with your dog, and yes, you can pet him. You can let him search for something in the surrounding, give him snacks, and so on. I rarely use these features though, and in a lot of spots in the game you can only call for him, which limits the feature immensely. And 9 out of 10 times when you send Bullet to search for things, he doesn't find anything. But at least I was able to paint some skeleton texture on his fur. At least around Halloween this is the case. Bullet is still useful though, as he can lead the way in certain spots in the game and notices danger. There are some kind of weird enemies in the woods, which are hard to spot, and the player has to point light at them to defeat them. Bullet will growl at the monsters and the player can point his flashlight in the direction of the danger. What should really be the strong point here is the level design. Unfortunately, it is not. To keep in line with the films, I guess the developer decided to create confusing level design, which at several spots in the game leads to the player walking in circles, which is more annoying than anything else. The whole game looks quite boring as well, as you walk through the same woods and houses all the time. Especially the ending was annoying, as you walk through a house for a change, but the house itself changes as you walk through it. And this portion of the game just feels like it will never end. So here are already some glaring issues. The mechanics introduced here are not really fleshed out, and the level design sometimes sucks. The story starts promising. The search for a missing child soon turns into the emotional journey of our main character, who is confronted with his inner demons. There are heavy topics, but some are just glanced over and not really touched upon. The trauma Alice experienced during the war is the main part of the story and thoroughly explained. But some things are just quickly shown in fragments in the finale. Which is okay, but it could have been better handled. The characters are a bigger problem though. Alice is most of the time unhinged.
Alice, maybe you should...
No, I said I'm fine!
Yeah, of course you are.
It would have been better to start with him in a more relaxed state and then show his psyche break as the events unfold and he is confronted with his past, present and future. But instead he is just unlikable from the beginning and out of his mind. The supernatural events which unfold are also a bit ridiculous. There are these monsters which are moving erratically in the forest, which just look stupid. Even worse are those leaf monsters which you encounter. I was actually killed by those things and then shouted something like, "Was I just killed by leaf? What the fuck?"
What the fuck?!
There are also some jump scares later on in the game which were getting more and more annoying. Overall the story was disappointing as it got weaker the longer it progressed, which is unfortunate. There are also some clichés which were unnecessary and the twist didn't really do anything for me, and I was guessing what was going on halfway through. Visually the game looks fine, but it's aesthetically rather boring. Everything looks the same, which is probably intended, but doesn't mean that I have to like it. The AI for Bullet is sometimes kind of bad. He walks on the spot, gets stuck somewhere, and the sound he makes are sometimes playing at the wrong time. Like, for example, you hear him making dog sounds while he is bringing something and has his mouth full and couldn't make sounds. Also, Alice was talking to the dog and it seemed like he was petting him, but he was still stuck somewhere for a moment, and the animation played later.
What are you doing out here?
The game doesn't have too many bugs, but when it has bugs, they are highly annoying.
You got some...
I had 2 or 3 crashes.
You don't.
One of them threw me back like 10 minutes, and I had to play through that segment again.
That's all there is to it.
Also, there was an issue almost every time I started the game. The sound just didn't work for me properly, and the game had an endless loading screen. Almost every time I had to start it twice to actually play the game.
I'm not gonna screw this up. Not this time.
Blair Witch has some good ideas, but ultimately it is painfully mediocre. The story is just okay, the presentation has its moments, but it's kind of boring and the ending overstays its welcome.
Time to get to work.
I was kind of disappointed by the game and just expected a bit more. I will give Blair Witch a 5 out of 10.
Bullet, search! Yeah, lead on, buddy. What'd you find? Let me see. Leave it, buddy. Now's not the time. Yeah, good dog. Baltimore crows. That's Peter's cap. Good boy. We need to hurry. Can you follow the scent? Take a whiff, buddy. That's it. Take me to it. Ellis to base.